Representative Jim Jordan of Ohio is facing some serious accusations. Back in April, Ohio State University launched an investigation into sexual assault and molestation allegations that were against a former doctor at the university. It was an athletics doctor who actually is no longer alive. He committed suicide years ago. But these accusations were directed toward Dr. Strauss. And the argument is that Representative Jim Jordan was an assistant wrestling coach at the university at the time. He knew what was going on and refused to do anything about it, and today denies ever knowing anything about it. So let me make the case, and this is based on an investigation done by NBC News. Former wrestlers actually spoke to NBC and are now cooperating with investigators in this case. Now, Representative Jim Jordan, the Republican congressman from Ohio, is being accused by former wrestlers he coached more than 2 decades ago at Ohio State University of failing to stop the team doctor from molesting them and other students. I also want to be clear, this doctor not only treated athletes from the wrestling team, but from several other teams at the university as well, across many different sports. We'll get to that in just a minute. The university announced that it was investigating accusations that Dr. Richard Strauss, who died in 2005, abused team members when he was the team doctor from the mid-1970s to late 1990s. So I'm gonna have the specific allegations by former wrestlers in just a minute, but Cenk, I wanted you to jump in and,
Yeah, so first off, I'm a little surprised by their naivete on this. I don't mean about the sexual harassment, about Jim Jordan denying the charges, that he knew anything about the doctor abusing the kids. One former wrestler said, "It's sad for me to hear that he's denying this. I don't know why he would unless it's a cover up." Now, I want you to understand this context, and this is both in favor of Jim Jordan and against him. Almost all the wrestlers that talked to NBC News said that they really liked Jim Jordan.
That they loved him, yeah.
And so I can't see that. I think Jim Jordan's a terrible guy, and I don't agree with him politically, but it's not just that. I think as he goes to destroy the rule of law in this country, he's one of the most conservative members of Congress and one of the most loyal to Donald Trump, and in fact attacks his political opponents with vengeance. And so
he's also the founder of the House Freedom Caucus, which is the most conservative group of Congress members.
Yeah, but to be fair to him, and we always report the story as it is, these former wrestlers say that they liked him, they loved him. One of them said, "I love Jimmy to death." They said they had great conversations with him back when he was the assistant coach. So that's part of the story. But they all then turn around and go, "But why is he lying about this? That we knew, everybody knew that the doctor was molesting the kids, and Jim Jordan knew. In fact, apparently, according to one of the former wrestlers, Jordan even said he'd kill him if he tried anything with him. So he told Strauss, 'I'll kill you if you try anything with me.' But the kids, they're fair game. Have at it, Hoss." Now look, to be fair, he didn't say that last part, but that goes to the naivete of the former wrestlers, which my heart goes out to them. But they're like, "Why is Jim Jordan lying about this?" Guys, if he admitted it, he'd have to say, "Yeah, I'm a really conservative guy who runs on family values, and I knew those kids were being molested, and I did nothing about it."
Right.
Well, that's devastating.
And it would be devastating for anyone in any profession, right? Especially as a public figure, to admit that you were complicit in what was going on. So let me give you some of the details of the accusations and what these former wrestlers had to say about Representative Jordan. So Mike DiSabato is one of the former wrestlers. He's one of the more outspoken individuals who, by the way, reached out to Representative Jordan, and there's evidence of an email where he reached out to him and asked him to participate or cooperate with this investigation, to really speak out. And Representative Jordan did not respond to it and has denied ever knowing anything about these accusations. So here's what DiSabato said: "I consider Jim Jordan a friend, but at the end of the day, he is absolutely lying if he says he doesn't know what was going on." Another former wrestler who wished to remain anonymous told NBC News, "I love Jimmy to death. It was a head scratcher to me why he would say he didn't know anything. Doc used to take showers with the team even though he didn't do any workouts, and everybody used to snicker about how you go into his office for a sore shoulder and he tells you to take your pants down." Okay, so I want to stop for a moment. One of the things that really stood out to me from these interviews with former wrestlers was how pretty much everyone acknowledged what was going on, but the athletes were afraid to speak out. Many of the athletes received scholarships to go to that university because of their skills and their talents, and they were afraid of having that scholarship taken away from them, so they didn't speak out. But there was just this weird environment of, yeah, it's going on, we're gonna joke around about it rather than address it. And I mean, it was a different time, but still, it's kind of incredible that these kids were being, these students were being molested and everyone knew.
So there was as much as 1,500 to 2,000 athletes over 15 different sports who might have been molested by this guy. What's shocking to me, and I lived through that time, it was, I was alive in the 1970s to the 1990s, and I played sports in that time. Apparently it was super commonplace, and I guess I'm super lucky that I didn't draw the wrong card, right? That, oh, well, hey, if one of the adults wants to molest the kids, well, what are you gonna do? That's Dr. Strauss. They'd say, I came in for a sore shoulder, and he'd say, take your pants down, and he'd feel their penis. What? And apparently, now to be fair, some people did do something about it. The head coach Hellickson reported him to the administrators, and he warned the doctor to steer clear of his wrestlers. So some adults did the right thing, but apparently administrators didn't do anything because Dr. Strauss kept working there for decades. What are they thinking? Today, it seems unimaginable. I bet if you told me back then, I would have found it unimaginable back then.
Right.
But apparently a lot of people in power, their assumption was, and that is why this cultural shift now is, I think, so terrific. Their assumption back then was, if you're in power, you can do whatever you want, and there's never any consequences. So in fact, Anna, the most shocking part of the story to me was not about Jim Jordan, was not about the doctor, because we know Dr. Larry Nassar, and that's part of the reason why these kids came forward. They saw what he had done to the girls in gymnastics, and so they got emboldened to come forward and tell their stories because they didn't want it to happen to other people. So we know that happens from time to time. But apparently at 3:30 p.m. when the athletes would start taking showers, not just Dr. Nassar, but this is according to NBC News, university professors, administrators, and others would show up in the shower stalls just as the athletes were arriving. What?
Yeah, I know.
Like, so this was a thing. So like professors and different people like, oh, the young boys are in the showers. Let's all randomly head to the showers at 3:30 in the afternoon to take a shower in the middle of the day with naked boys.
So
what?
So by the way, they're incredibly young. They're not boys. They're over 18. So they're considered men, but still they're young men that are, according to what they're alleging, who are being abused by people in positions of power at this university. And so for the longest time, they didn't speak out because they felt like they couldn't. And because of the whole Larry Nassar case, they realized, wait, maybe there could be justice. And so I'm glad that they spoke out. But you're right, Cenk, like that kind of shocked me as well, because it shows you, if it's proven to be true, how insanely widespread this kind of abuse is.
And so Hellickson, the coach, talked to the doctor, and he's like, you gotta stop going in the shower. And then the doctor says, well, you go in the shower. He's like, yeah, I go in the shower when we're done with practice. You're not even in practice. And I don't stay in there for an hour. What are you doing in there?
Right.
Right, let alone what he did to the kids in private training area, which is much worse. So it's amazing to me that it was just accepted. It's just like, hey, there's perverts who like to, and that's the least you could say about them, who like to molest the young students. And some of us talk to him about it and tell him not to do it. And Jim Jordan apparently decided not to be one of those guys. He just said, don't touch me. Now look, how guilty is Jim Jordan? Is this a thing that he should resign over? Look, generally with conservative voters, they don't care about hypocrisy at all. So I'd be shocked if they cared about this. My guess is they're all saying, that was a long time ago, just leave him alone. To me, I think it's actually not an easy question. It's easy for progressives to say, throw him to the wolves, but he didn't do it. And apparently at the time, it was totally accepted that you just allow this type of stuff to happen, because it's not like he was the only one. The administrators knew about it, the coach warned them, and they didn't do anything. So look, one thing that is absolutely clear, there needs to be consequences today so that it doesn't happen in the future. Because unless you're mental, nobody thinks that this is acceptable. Now, I know, but politics gets so crazy that the Republicans will say, I don't care when it comes to Jim Jordan, right?
Yeah.
But do we go back 20 years and then say, okay, anybody who didn't do anything back then now has to be fired from whatever job they're in today? I think that's a difficult question.
Well, I think it's a difficult question, but answering that question becomes easier depending on what that job is. If you are a US representative, you are in a position of power that's incredibly important, right? And so if you are willing to sit back and remain complicit in this type of abuse, molestation, sexual assault, I don't believe that you're fit to serve as a US senator, as a US representative, as anyone in any type of position of power, right? Because look, the role of the government is to represent and protect its people. And if he can't protect, people who do not have any position of power, students in vulnerable positions or situations like this, then how can you trust him to protect the American people in his position of power? So look, for me, it doesn't matter. This goes beyond politics. I don't care if it's a Republican or a conservative or a liberal, progressive, Democrat, doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is whether or not this person takes their job and their responsibility seriously. And if it's proven that he was complicit in this, I don't think that he should serve in any position of power.
And finally, another thing that is absolutely clear is based on the testimony of several different ex-wrestlers from Ohio State, Jim Jordan knew. And so now when he's saying, oh, the guy whose locker was right next to mine, the one I warned about not touching me, oh, he was touching all the other boys that told me, some of them said, yeah, I told Jim Jordan, hey, can you help me, right? And you think all those wrestlers are lying for no reason when they actually really like Jim Jordan?
And they're on the record. So I want to give you one other example. This is another former wrestler who said nice things about Jim Jordan, right? So he says the following: I remember I had a thumb injury and went into Strauss's office and he started pulling down my wrestling shorts. I'm like, what the F are you doing? And I went out and told Russ, that was the head coach, and Jim, assistant coach, what happened. I was not having it. They went in and talked to Strauss. So that's, again, another former wrestler who's on the record by name saying, I went to Jim Jordan myself and told him what was going on, and he took some action. He went and spoke to Strauss. So I don't know.
I don't know if his voters will ever care. I don't know if conservatives will care.
Well, his voters aren't going to care,
yeah,
right?
But at a bare minimum, he's definitely lying. 2 easy ways to follow the Young Turks. One is hit the subscribe button down below. Then you're a TYT subscriber. And second is ring the bell. And when you do that on YouTube, you're notified of our videos.